My statement is there's no dental health without proper nutrition.
Tom, how did you find carnivore?
Yes, I was reading this question. Thank you so much for, I'm getting a bit emotional, but for having me. I feel it as a kind of moral obligation almost to make more people aware of the existence of this ultimate elimination diet, the carnivore diet. My journey began when we as a family moved to France in 2005, when we as a family uh, came here to France and to make a kind of new start. We found a house in the southwest of France near Bergerac. I must add, one of our aims, one of our goals was to have our kids grow up bilingual. At the time we moved to France, they were 2 and 7. Okay, so we found a house and a lot of physical work had to be done. And I did a lot of it. At the same time, I took a job as a dentist for 2 days a week. And that was until 2008, and then most of the work was done. But at the same time, there was this financial crisis, and a lot of my assets, they more or less disappeared. So I had to continue working and even working more days a week. So, yeah, I continued working and I didn't have anything to do with the building of the house and no more heavy lifting, no more digging, no more. So I began to gain some weight, and my wife noticed that too. At some point, I felt the need to seriously lose some weight, but nothing seemed to work. My waist kept on growing. About 3 years ago, I found the Atkins diet, eating vegetables and meat. I tried to I tried not to eat the rice, the pastas, the potatoes, although I thought of them as vegetables, and bread. And there were some ounces lost now and then, but very easily they were gained back again. Then in the summer of 2023, I saw the videos made by Michaela Peterson, and I was very impressed. And also I saw the videos of the usual suspects, the carnivore doctors. That made me decide to give it a try. I was very happy to see some serious weight losses. And it was on New Year's Eve that I noticed a kind of pain in my right flank. It took 3 days before I saw a doctor, and he urged me to go to the emergency room in a nearby hospital. I was immediately medically spoken, turned upside down, had a scan, and all kinds of other investigations, x-rays, blood tests, and so on. At the end of the day, they told me what was wrong. I had to see a cardiologist and a urologist. And I got an appointment for this urologist the next day. So they seemed it was rather urgent. This man told me about a new growth in the region of my right kidney. And later on, this man was talking about even a cancer. So that worried me some. There was also a small circular spot in my right lung just above the kidney. And okay, there came a time to investigate the origin of the cancer and if that small spot on my lung was cancerous also. So I had two biopsies, and one of them that from the spot on the lung didn't show any cancer tissue, but the biopsy of the kidney, there was some cancer tissue to be found. Okay, so they planned some more researches. I had to get a TAP scan, and I will try to explain what it is. It is more or less a normal scan, but I was injected with radioactive glucose, and that makes the places where there's active cancerous activity very visible on the scan. But to um, to everybody's amazement, nothing was found. There were no cancerous spots visible. So that didn't worry me. I was happy to see that. In fact, that meant that I had been very diligent in my Atkins diet and my carnivore diet to deprive the cancer from sugar. Okay, but doctors found that the kidney had to be removed, and on the 26th of April was the day that they took out the kidney, and maybe you can show the picture. And it was a long operation. It was very difficult to take it out, but okay. I had to spend 5 days in intensive care, and a little after that, I could return to my home. Well, there was a time that it was painful, but the pain subsided, and now I'm practically pain free. I'm not in my usual strength, and my body tells me very clearly what I can do and what I can't do. So I'm very attentive to that. I had to see a lung specialist. There had been an inflammation of the lungs triggered by the cancer. I got a therapy of corticosteroids, and I gained about 5 kilos again. And I'm busy to lose that again. Now I will try to say what I've noticed while using the carnivore diet and in my body. And okay, I'll start with my head. I noticed a quick hair growth. I had to see the barber more often than I was used to. My skin has no superficial inflammation, no blackheads, no pimples, nothing. It's perfect. I have better night vision. I used to be a bit afraid to drive my car at night, but nowadays it's no problem. And I'm wearing no glasses at all. My arms had also more hair growth, and dark hairs appeared, and I need to clip my nails more often, but my nails are very well. I love my hands. They look nice and they're not brittle, easy. Uh, my legs, they have more hair growth as well, dark hairs, and my legs themselves, they look not skinny but muscular. I think, yeah, it's I've not lost at least some muscles. They're still strong. Okay, about my feet, uh, I've got no callus and I've got no fissures in my heels. So they feel soft, my heels. and the nails on my feet are, as my fingernails, they are pink and they need often some clipping. So I'm very satisfied about how my body looks and functions. Okay, about my mouth. Uh, a lot of people notice that your teeth remain clean. They feel clean much longer, and there's no bleeding of the gums. And to me, as dentist, it was very, yeah, it was an eye opener for me. And I think it is a motive to look in another way on prevention of dental problems and even more. And I will come to that later. Now I want to talk a bit about my daughter, and the why will become clear. My daughter, she was a very, very active child, and she liked to do a lot of sports, but she was easily injured doing sports. Sometimes she had to use a bandage or braces for her wrists, and sometimes she even needed the crutches. You can see, yeah, they were still in her room. Then she had also some problems with her dentition. She had orthodontic problems. Not all of her teeth were fitting in her rather narrow, arched jaws. And as a dentist, I had to pull two premolars of her upper jaw. I think that's due to her way of eating. As a child, she very soon decided to follow her mother, being a vegetarian. And I don't think that was a very wise decision, but okay, we'll look into that later. In that time, I also saw the videos by an American doctor, an American dentist, Kevin Stock. You will find him on YouTube. And he states that if there's not enough nutrients, the facial growth is disturbed, and there will be facial malformations, narrow dental arches, a malposition of the tongue, mouth breathing, and gingival infections, and of course the crooked teeth, lips that couldn't be closed in rest, and it also makes them have a mouth breathing. So that was the case with her. So there was a lot of things to be done. Yeah. And of course, Kevin Stock, he was a carnivore and he advises to do the carnivore diet. Skulls were found of people that lived 15,000 years ago. And it appeared they had more or less ideal teeth, wide arches, upper and lower, and all teeth had found their proper position, and there was no orthodontic problems there. There was no tooth decay, there was no gingival troubles, no abscesses, no loss of bone around the teeth. So, an ideal situation. And we must assume that those people had a very low carb way of eating. Okay, well, there was a change. About 5,000 years ago, people started to do agriculture, and they were growing all kinds of corn and other grains. And that became visible in their skulls. The skulls themselves were smaller, the jaws were smaller, and more dental problems were visible, decay, malformation, not enough space for all teeth. So there's a distinct relation, I think, between the way of eating, the way of taking nutrients, and a good development of the facial skeleton and so on. Kevin Stock, this American dentist, he says the mouth is the beginning of the digestive tract. And if there's an inflammation in the mouth, there's always an inflammation in the rest of that digestive tract. It will be inflamed, an inflamed gut. And that gives rise to a lot of illnesses, autoimmune diseases, myocarditis. Okay, some of the bacteria that are responsible you can also find in the mouth. Streptococcus mutans, that is. He says, well, most people think of having cavities in your teeth is okay, it's more or less normal. Having gingivitis, okay, everybody has that. It's normal. To see an orthodontist and to have your wisdom teeth taken out, okay, that happens so often, that's normal. But it isn't. It's false. And I think it's all due to the kind of food you take. There was another proof in the time before, in the States, in Kentucky, before the European settlers came. There were two tribes of Indians in Kentucky, and one tribe was here, and the other one lived on the other side of the river. One were the hunter-gatherers, and the others did some agriculture. And the difference, again, was visible. The hunter-gatherers who lived off the meat of the animals they could find, they had perfect skulls, perfect, okay. And the tribe that lived off what they were growing and harvesting, they had dental problems. It was easy to see, very clear. And the same goes for some Maasai tribes in Africa. About the same. There were one tribe that has been hunter-gatherer, and the other one had discovered agriculture. And if you look at their physics, the hunter-gatherers are, in general, a bit longer, more heavily built, thicker skulls, wider jaws, whereas the others that lived of their agriculture had a bit shrunken skulls and, okay, dental problems as well. So that are signs of my proper conclusion. I think the fossil record shows that skeletal growth is dependent on the right nutrients. And as a dentist, we are often busy trying to implement some oral hygienes with our patients. I think it should even start before, even looking at the mother to be. Is she healthy? Is she well fed? Is she taking in the right nutrients? Was the mother healthy during pregnancy? Has there been a natural birth? Has she been breastfeeding the child? I think all of these factors determine how healthy the baby will come to this world. And also there's the question of, is there a healthy environment? Well, I had been talking about my daughter. Now I want to say something about my son. My son, he loved his Choco Pops with milk, and I made sure he got the whole milk. And I went. I'm going to my farmer at least 2 times a week to get some milk, and it's very, very nice milk. But he suffers from chronic fatigue. He claims he has not enough energy, so he eats between meals, and he's taking a bowl of these Choco Pops. And every time his blood sugars have, okay, you know the story. And I'm trying to convince him to eat otherwise, but he's convinced that sugar is energy, so he has to take in sugar. Okay. He thinks he's more clever than I am. One day you will find out. So, at one point, one of his best friends got very ill and had to be hospitalized. What was found was it looked like Crohn's disease. I went to see his mother to inform her about the carnivore diet. She's a nurse in a nearby hospital, and her information, she says, is firsthand because I'm surrounded by doctors. They may be old school doctors. When I was hospitalized myself, I told the medical staff that I liked protein rich food, no bread. And even a nutritionist came to my bed and asked me what I'd like to eat. And I told her about the carnivore diet, and she wasn't aware that that existed. So far for the knowledge that was within her. Okay,
How did they feed you in the hospital?
well, uh, I know that the food in the French hospitals is not very exciting, to say the least. And okay, there was always a piece of bread, but in the end, they gave me some chicken fillets and some eggs and cheese and yogurt. Okay, they did their best. I want to come back to again to teeth. What all the results of the carnivore diet tells us, there's no health without healthy food. What all users of the carnivore diet tell us, that they feel better as reborn even without medication. There can be a revolution in thinking about dental health. And my statement is there's no dental health without proper nutrition. And that starts even in the mother's womb. I was telling you about it. And I also said that cavities and gingivitis are not normal, and they're false. And the archaeological findings, they prove it. As soon as carbohydrates enter the mouth, the enzyme amylase converts that into sugar that the bacteria can use for forming cavities. And once the bacteria are in the dental film that surrounds the tooth, they continue doing that. They continue forming cavities and making the gums inflamed. Due to those bacteria, the gums will easily bleed, and finally the teeth get lose their connection with the bone that surrounds them. Everybody who consumes a lot of carbohydrates will start this process of gingivitis, periodontitis, and so on, unless there's a very strict oral hygiene. Kevin Stock says at least 70% of the American population has a kind of dental disease, gum disease. Okay. And I want to say something about calculus. There's a difference of opinion about calculus. Should it be removed? If someone uses a lot of sugar, the gums are infected, the calculus should be removed because they are filled with bacteria producing inflammation of the gums. So it's useful to take away the tartar. If, however, someone follows the carnivore diet, the bacteria will not survive. And okay, there's no food for them. So there's no inflammation, there's no periodontitis, and there's, in fact, no need to take away the tartar. And if you take it away, the gums underneath are just healthy. They don't bleed, they're healthy. So the calculus itself is not a reason to uh, to give rise to gingivitis.
So I'm really interested in the talking about oral health.
Yeah, I know.
Um, so it just amazes me how you can have pretty bad oral health, which is what I had, and a few weeks of giving yourself the correct nutrition on a carnivore diet changes everything.
Yeah, it
It's
does.
astounding.
Yeah.
So, do you ever have you spoken to colleagues about this, or
Well,
like,
uh, hmm, not yet. You know, maybe I told you that I was not allowed to work anymore as a dentist in France. I was forbidden to work, and I lost contact with my colleagues. But in fact, my colleagues, they were old school dentists. They were prescribing uh, oral mouth rinses. And what they do, they kill all bacteria. And that's not the right way to go. And yeah, I see that French dentists would prescribe a lot of antibiotics and those mouth rinses, whereas I very rarely uh, wrote prescriptions for those things.
how is your daughter and son with this now? Are they're still doing their own thing as far as eating?
They're very stubborn, and my son, he refuses to believe that I cured my own cancer by following the carnivore diet. Okay, one day he will learn about it. I think, I hope. I've talked about this with my with the partner of my stepdaughter in Holland. He's in the medical field, and he's become a yeah, carnivore, and he's even advising it to his patients. He works in the clinic to cure people from heavy pains and overweight and so on. So I'm very happy that he chose that way of trying to cure the people instead of giving, for instance, Zempic or whatever you have.
Yeah, I really, the longer I've been focused in this area, the more I think that metabolic therapy should be the first course of action for most things. Of course, if you've got a broken
Of course,
leg, I
cancers,
understand, but
cancers.
hmm,
It is a metabolic disease. I'm very sure about that.
instead of the first kind of course of action being jumping to drugs, we should be thinking
Yeah,
about do they have the correct nutrition?
yeah,
Mm,
yeah. I
yeah.
think one of the major things in dental prevention should be, how is your diet? And how was your mother before yeah, you were born? Did you get breastfed and so on? All those things, I think that matters.
Yeah, I'll never forget actually going to a dentist 20 years ago. I don't go to a dentist very frequently, but going to a dentist 20 years ago, after I'd started the Atkins diet for the first time,
Oh, you did as
and I was talking to the dentist and saying, I can't believe it. I don't need to brush my teeth and they feel clean all the time. It's
yeah,
like, there's no furry feeling on them my teeth anymore. There's no like buildup. And the dentist, and like I said to the dentist, it's only happened since I've been doing this diet where I'm not having sugar. And the dentist was just like, oh, I don't know why that is. I'm not sure. And it's
yeah,
just like totally uninformed about anything to do
yeah,
with
yeah,
nutrition.
yeah, yeah. But I'm also afraid to contact my colleague with whom I was working in Bergerac for more than 15 years. I don't dare to present this interview to him. I think he'll be very shocked, at least.
Why do you think you'll be shocked?
Well, he's almost the same age as me, and uh, a lot of his patients leave the dental office with a prescription, and mine don't. And every major intervention in a patient's mouth, there was always antibiotics and other things. And I think it cures by itself very rapidly. And that was my experience over more than 40 years of being a dentist.
I think this makes sense because we're the only species that can't get this right. You look at a lion or a tiger, they don't need to brush their teeth, right? They don't need to do anything with they just eat their food and they go about their daily life as they normally would, right? And their teeth don't get cavities. They don't get
No,
there's
no,
no tigers with halitosis, you know.
no.
Mm.
Cats do. And you know when they get the wrong nutrition out of the box. You
Yeah,
see,
that's why dogs as well, right? Dogs'
yeah,
teeth are perfect if you're feeding them raw meat, but as soon
yeah,
as they start eating the garbage out of the boxes, that's
yeah,
when the yeah. If someone came to you and said, "Look, Tom, I've really I'm at the end of my rope. I need to do something about my oral health. I need to lose some weight. This carnivore diet seems to be working for you." What
yeah.
advice would you give them?
I would advise them to do their own investigation, to see a lot of videos. There are lots and lots of them, and that should convince them. I'm not telling them to do the carnivore diet. Let them find it themselves. I think that's the best way, and that's it. In fact, I would advise them to look it up themselves because they can always blame me for it. You gave me that advice, and okay, I'm a dentist, and it gives me a kind of authority, and don't want it. I want them to find it out themselves, and I can help them find the right videos. And okay, there's so many.
Nice. So Tom, if people want to reach out to you, do you have any social media or any way to get in contact?
I am kind of yeah, and I don't know my way around at the web. So you have my email address, and I will reply to everybody who wants to contact me and who wants to ask me some questions. I'll be more than happy to answer them.
Awesome. So I'll include that below in the show notes.
Yeah,
Tom, thank you so much for coming on and sharing your story. I really appreciate your time.
You're welcome.